Fun that way. Here you go.
It's okay, I forgot to turn your audio on.
Ah, all right. There you go. Basically the same question as the other pop quiz I gave right after a test. How'd you do? Why? Sure. Here you go. Put your name on the attendance sheet and grab one of those pop quizzes. Here you go. Here you go.
Thank you.
And then grab a pop quiz, and then there's one of those for each of you as well. So how did that test go as far as like the physical mechanics of it? Is everybody okay with it? Did it work all right? Okay, so that's the way I'm going to do the rest of the tests. So same deal. You can come take it here in class if you want to, or you can take it online. Same setup as the way it went. How many people felt like they had not really enough time and they had to rush? How many people felt like they had like way more time than they needed and they did it in like 5 minutes and I gave them more time than was necessary? So the time seemed about reasonable? Okay, so that's pretty much how I'll do it for the next test as well. I'm going to come around and get the pop quizzes, and then the handout that I just gave you, I'll start over here for a change, is about the credit report, which I want you to get for next time. So the credit report, you watched the little video about why I want you to get the credit report and what you're looking for with the credit report. The primary thing I want you to know about is whether you have been the victim of identity theft or not. And really, the best way to figure that out is to pull your credit report. When you actually do the credit report assignment, what I want you to do is go to annualcreditreport.com and fill out all the information there and put in your credit report stuff. So let me get this plugged in here real quick. So this screen that's about to come up is an example of making sure that you're careful and you type it correctly, because that is not the right place. I typed annual and spelled it wrong, so I got this other website. Don't put your information in to a wrong website. Annualcreditreport.com is the site that the federal government set up to where each of the 3 credit reporting agencies will give you your report once per year for free. When you go, make sure that you get to one of the sites that says that it is a secure website. Here's the correct one. So up at the very top there, I can't see it. It should, there it goes. It should show you that HTTPS. Make sure you see that S. That's the indication that it is the secure website and you're in the right place. The government requires the 3 different credit reporting agencies to give you your report at least once per year without charging you anything for that. I'll get those pop quizzes from behind you here. Here's the best recommended advice. There's 3 different credit reporting agencies. There's TransUnion, there's Equifax, and there's Experian. The best advice is to get your credit report from Equifax, say, and then 4 months later, get it from one of the other 2, and then 4 months after that, get it from the remaining one, and then 4 months after that, it will have been a year, and the first one will give you your credit report again. If you're really paranoid and you want to check your credit report as much as possible, but have it all be for free, that would be the way to do it. What I want you to do is to at least check it occasionally. At this stage in your life, you're probably not particularly concerned about your credit score, what your credit report has to say, but you are fairly vulnerable to credit fraud and identity theft. And so I want you to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. That's the main reason that I want you to check your credit report. The website, when you get there, this very first link here, request your free credit report, is going to then ask you to fill out a whole bunch of information. You go here, request a report, and you have to fill out a ton of stuff, including your Social Security number, and some people are uncomfortable about that. I want to point out, this is a government-run website, so you're just telling the government your government number. You're not sharing it with any new organization. It's just the way that they track to keep track of you. So you shouldn't be too worried about being able to put that in. If you really don't want to do it, okay, you don't have to do all the assignments. You can do extra credit stuff instead. I can't force you to do it. When you've done that and you submit this screen full of information, then it asks you to pick one of the 3 credit reporting agencies. I don't care which one you pick. And then once you've picked it, then it'll tell you your credit report information. Do not give that to me. Show it to me so I see that you did it, but don't give me that information. I do not want to have the identifying information about you that someone could use to steal your identity. I don't want to steal your identity. I don't want to be able to steal your identity. I don't want to be accused of doing it either. And I also don't want you to give me information in a way like via email or text message where somebody else could intercept that. If you send it to me via email, someone else could hack the system and get that email, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want anybody to have access to that information. So just the easiest thing to do is, if you did it on your phone, just bring your phone in and show me the screen so that I can see that you did it. If you really want to turn it in online, then make sure you block out any identifying information other than your name so that I can recognize the thing and make sure that you don't share any other private information with me. But it's perfectly fine. Most of you already have your devices with you anyway. Just show me the computer screen right before class or right after class. I'll give you credit for it. If you try to do this assignment and it will not give your information to you, then show me that. So it's not uncommon that when you put in all the information, it will say, sorry, we are unable to provide you with your credit report information at this time. Or, sorry, we cannot give you your information online. Please call us or fill out this paper thing and mail it in, something like that. There's several different possible screens you might get that say, we won't give you your credit report. Just show me that. Save that screen and show me that, and you did the assignment. The assignment is to go to this site and request your information. If they won't give it to you, that's not your fault, so you'll still get credit for the assignment. Why would they not give you your credit report information? non-rhetorical question. What's that?
Once per year?
So if you've already requested it too recently, then perhaps they won't give it to you again, right? So that's possible. That's a possible reason. Any other? Yeah. Yeah, if you have no information there, they can't give you any information about you, right? If you have no credit history, no information on your credit report, then there's nothing to give you, and they'll say, sorry, we can't give it to you. So it's not necessarily a problem if you don't see any information there. There's a couple other reasons. If you're under 18, you can't get your credit report. It just doesn't let you. If you don't have a social security number, if you're not a US citizen, then you can't get it because it won't work. So those situations are not uncommon for my students. But then also, if they know that you have been the victim of identity theft, or if you know and you have put on a block on your account, then they might say, sorry, we can't give it to you because they've disabled internet access. So it's not necessarily good news if they say they can't tell you anything. If you are pretty sure that you don't have anything in your name, and you get the we can't tell you, that's fine. That's what you should expect. Don't worry. If you are sure that you do have stuff in your name, if you know that you've got, say, a credit card in your own name, a phone bill in your own name, loans in your own name, etc., and it won't give you a report, then maybe be a little worried and take that next step to write in for it or ask your own bank to see if they'll give you one or something. But for my sake, you'd be done when you got to the screen. Yeah. How long does it take for stuff to show up on your credit report? That depends on the company that you're requesting it of, and it depends on how promptly they report and so on. Typically, they say a couple of months, 2 months or so, it should show up. Although, how many of you have student loans? They're taking out loans for college that you arranged through financial aid. Anybody doing loans from them? Those sometimes take a lot longer to show up because you don't have to start paying them back until you're done with school. They may not show up on your records, often until the end of the first semester that you're in school. If you just got a credit card this week, it probably won't be on there when you check it this week, but it'll probably be on there before too much longer. Typically, what I've been told is by the time you get your first bill, they should have started getting information that you owe them money. How do you make your credit score better? We'll talk more about that when we get to chapter 12. The assignment is not to get your credit score. Your credit score you have to pay for. Your credit report is the information that they use to generate your score. So we're not worried about the score yet. Don't pay them for that. Just get your report. But the main thing that makes your score better is a history of good behavior, a history of things that make you look responsible and like you're likely to pay their debts back. Is it good or bad if you have no credit history?
It's kind of bad because, like, if you were going to get a card, you had to have no, no history to see that you're good at paying stuff off.
Right. No history is bad. No credit equals bad credit. And at one level, that seems perverse. So suppose that I have gotten to be, let's say, 40 years old, and I have never borrowed any money from anybody. You think, well, that's great. He doesn't need to borrow money. He's responsible. He takes care of himself. But the thought is, well, if now he needs to borrow money, it must be because now he can't handle it anymore, so there must be something wrong. So if you have no history, you get lumped in with everybody else who has no history, and that's bad. To increase your score, you need to show them you've done good things. So, for example, every month that you pay your bill on time, you get a little green check mark next to your name. Literally, when you go look at it up, you'll see like a column of X's and checks. Every month you pay it on time, it's a green check mark. And you need more and more and more green check marks to raise your score up higher and higher and higher. It starts out bad, and you have to make it better. So I'm going to suggest when we get to chapter 12 that you should start building your credit history. As I said in one of the videos that you watched, employers check your credit. And you want to have good credit when you go trying to apply for a job where you need to have already good credit to get that job. which typically it's not the kind of jobs that you might have while you're in school. I mean, if you're working at Chick-fil-A, they probably don't run your credit. If you're working at a law firm, they might well run your credit to get an introductory level job at a law firm or an architecture firm or in a hospital or something. So it's not critical right now, but it's something you can do now to help make yourself look better later. Basically, it takes a while to earn good credit. They go back 7 years. So your credit is just not gonna be excellent, no matter how well behaved you've been when you're 22, 23, because you can't have 7 years worth of credit history yet. You need, you can't start till you're 18, so you gotta start as soon as you can and start building that credit. So that's chapter 12 stuff, and we'll come back to that. The credit report issue that you guys might face is the identity theft issue, which is why I gave you this handout. Now, the handout that I just gave you, the full page handout, at the bottom of the front page, that bottom paragraph of the side with the coffee cup on it, has how to get your credit report. So the same website that I just told you about, and the phone number to call them. Oh, and I'm done with that for now. Not the most common kind of identity theft, but the most increasingly prevalent kind, the kind that's growing the fastest of identity theft, is when people use inactive Social Security numbers. So that's where most identity theft is now moving towards. I know you guys have heard about things like somebody hacks into the system and gets your information and then uses that information. Somebody steals your credit card and then uses your credit card to buy something. How would you find out if somebody used your credit card to buy something? Yeah, your bill, your statement, whatever. You'd look it up and it would say, you bought this. And you would say, no, I didn't. What the hell? And you'd figure it out, right? So it'd be pretty easy to catch. If somebody steals your mail or steals your credit card information and then uses it directly, it's pretty easy to catch, right? You don't get your mail and you're like, well, what happened? I never got my mail. On the other hand, the clever identity theft doesn't do that. What the clever identity thief will do is they'll take your information and then they'll open new credit. I was not worried about it when I was in your shoes. When I was in college, I was like, big deal. So what? They steal my information and they get the $48.26 I have in my bank account. I'm not worried, right? I didn't have anything, so I wasn't worried about them stealing my stuff. That's not the worry. The worry is not that they'll take what you've got. The worry is that they'll borrow stuff in your name that then you will owe. So you guys have seen like the buy here, pay here kind of car dealerships that are up and down the streets right around town here. So suppose that I get your Social Security number, your personal information, and I go down to the buy here, pay here, no credit check necessary place, and I buy a $2,000 truck, and I borrow the money to do it. Now you owe them $2,000, and I drive away in the truck. And what I probably do is I drive down the road to the next dealership and I sell it to them for $900 and I walk away with cash. And now you have a debt for $2,000 that winds up going to collections and you don't find out about it till 3 years from now and now you're screwed. That's common. That's a common kind of identity theft. And it's easier if you catch it early, right? And checking your credit report is going to help you catch it early. But the worst kind that I'm familiar with is inactive Social Security numbers. Whose Social Security number is inactive? What does it mean if your Social Security number is inactive? It means that no one is currently using that Social Security number to report to the government. So there is no credit history with that particular Social Security number. There's nothing on their credit report. Or nobody is withholding taxes using that Social Security number. That person isn't working, doesn't have a job. Those numbers that aren't currently being used, who do they belong to? Well, they belong to either nobody at all, or dead people, or little kids who don't have jobs yet and can't borrow things yet and don't have any debts yet. That's a really common target group now for identity theft. So, I think I mentioned this in one of the videos, I have often had students find out that there's stuff on their credit report that they didn't know about that happened, years ago. I had one student whose dad, his mom and dad, her mom and dad broke up when she was like 1. Dad took her Social Security card with him, and did a whole bunch of stuff. She goes to check her credit report for my class, and she's got like 2 foreclosed homes, like 6 repoed cars, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of other stuff. Her credit is just completely fucked. And it wasn't hard for her to fix it because it was obviously not her, right? I did not buy a car when I was 2, right? It would have been illegal to sell me a house when I was 4. So it wasn't very difficult for her to fix once she caught it. But you can't really catch it until you get to the point where you actually check your credit report. I'm not trying to terrify you and think that this is going to happen to you, but it might. I mean, I often have people who have been, at some level, the victim of identity theft. So that's the main thing I want you to check, is just to make sure that if you get your credit report, that the information on it is accurate and is really you. Check and see if all the former addresses are really your former addresses. Check and see if they've got your name spelled right, stuff like that. It's not difficult stuff. Just make sure. And again, I know I did mention this. Sometimes my dad and my stuff gets mixed up. It doesn't hurt me any because he pays his bills and I pay my bills, so whatever. But it's better if it's clean and straight and nice and tidy. Frankly, I've also had it work the other way, where it was actually good for the student, where the parents took loans out in the child's name and paid them back on time. And so the child already had good credit by the time they were 18. That's illegal. I don't encourage it, but it wasn't bad that the student had this stuff they didn't know about. So just double check it, make sure. As I said, we'll talk more about how to make it better later on. So that's the credit report. Any questions about that? How did the do something new turn out? Happy with that? Did you wind up doing something that you enjoyed? How many of you didn't do that assignment yet? Okay, you still can, like all the other assignments. It's still okay to turn things in late. If you've done the thing and you just haven't written about it, go ahead and write about it, put that in. I graded a bunch of them today, but I haven't commented, I haven't responded back. I'll try to get the responses back written within the next week. Probably not today, but soon. I'll try to go back in and make comments for everybody. If I didn't give you full credit, then I made a comment on the grade, not in the discussion board, but on the grade itself. So if you see a comment there, it's of the variety, please tell us more. And then if you tell us more, then I'll give you more points. So if I didn't give you full credit for it, look for that. If you have already done your Do Something New assignment in the discussion board, the way I have the discussion board set up, I think the way I meant to set it up, you can't see anybody else's responses until after you've put your response in. But then once you put yours in, then you can see what everybody else has said. So you can see all the other fun things that people have done that might give you some ideas of things to do. Many instructors, when they have a discussion board assignment, require you to also respond to other people's posts on the discussion board, right? Have you guys seen that sort of thing? Okay, so I'm not requiring that, but if you make substantive comments, not just like a thumbs up or a, yeah, that's cool. If you make substantive discussion comments on the discussion board, I'll treat that as extra credit. So you make at least 2 comments, I'll give you extra credit for that, like other instructors might require of you. On the topic of extra credit, I think I sent out an announcement about this, but it didn't go to my earlier class, so I'm not sure if it went to you either. The assignment that was due last time, the Exploring Intercultural Awareness and Diversity assignment, I told you that one is an assignment that we alternate every other year with. And the other one is called the RED model assignment. Both of the assignments are designed to assess some of the learning outcomes that the division has us cover in this class. Slightly different. The one that we did relates to material in chapter 13. The one that we do on alternate years relates to material in chapter 6, and that's an extra credit assignment for you guys. It looks very much like the one that we did, in the sense that it's like a lot of questions to answer. It's again, 12 questions worth of stuff to do. It relates to critical thinking and problem solving, in particular, helping a student figure out how to solve their problems and to think through a goal and a problem for yourself. That is also worth up to 12 points of extra credit. Most of my extra credits, 2 points apiece, but that one's another big one, and it's useful, I think. And so you can do that one for up to 12 points if you want. Also, there's an assignment in there that we used to give, I think it's 3 years ago now. We gave it for several years and then we stopped, called the I Am project. The I Am project was very popular with my students. On the final exam, I have a couple of bonus survey type questions. One is, what's your favorite assignment and why? One is, what's your least favorite assignment and why? And I try to improve the bad ones and keep the good ones. We stopped requiring the I Am assignment, but I still like it because students do seem to enjoy doing it and benefit from it. So that's an extra credit assignment for you. It relates probably most directly to chapter 13. It's got 2 parts. One part is to do a presentation of who you are. I am, fill in the blank. There's several different options for how to do that. You could present some photographs of you or represent you, or photographs of things that represent your life, or write an essay about it, or one of the other options is to do an acrostic about yourself. You guys know what an acrostic is? It's like the opposite of an acronym, where you start with the letters and then you fill out things for it. So if I were doing my name, it would be R, ridiculously handsome. I, incredibly good looking, whatever, so that kind of assessment about yourself. So that's the project half, and then the other half, there's a reflection on having done the project, what you got from the project. That assignment, that extra credit assignment, is worth up to 8 points. So those 2 extra credits, 20 points. That's a big chunk of extra credit. That's worth more than any of the 3 parts of the test that you just took was worth. So lots of possibilities here. And again, I think some students at least have found those to be fun and rewarding activities. Any questions about any of that? The Exploring Intercultural Awareness / Diversity assignment, one of the things I asked you to do was to fill out your rubric scores and to tell me your rubric results. And you could have brought it on paper and handed it to me on the day, but most of you didn't come. So if you didn't give me that score, you still can. So I graded them all. I haven't gone through carefully and filled out my rubric score for everybody. But if you didn't add that rubric score on, then I just gave you an 11 out of 12. And if you wanted to, circle on the rubric page that I handed you and turn that in, you can still do that. Or you can go back into the assignment and add it, like either in the comments or as an additional submission, and tell me what score you think you get for each of those categories. So I'm still allowing that without counting late for just that one piece. If you turn the rest of it in on time, you can still give me that last question, because it makes it easier for me to fill out the rubric, frankly. Okay. Lecture videos. Next class, we have more videos that relate to chapter 15. Only some of the ones that I had done were the ones that were required so far. Chapter 15 talks about a lot of stuff, but doesn't talk about a lot of stuff. So for next time, the lecture videos that I'd like you to do relate to resumes and writing your resume and how to make your resume better, and also to job interviews, how to find a job you might want and how to prepare for a job interview and what to do after a job interview, like being in and recovering from job interviews. So in the Canvas assignments, it alphabetizes things, but I would recommend that you watch the resumes videos first and then the interview videos after. So if you guys regularly go to the lecture video page where you can see them all in a column there, do them in the order that's in there. If you just look at the assignments page, it alphabetizes things. And I recorded the resume ones first and then the interview ones. I don't know if there's anything where I say like I just said. So I'd recommend watching resume first, then interview stuff. That's the order that I think makes sense. And on that topic, for next class, I want you to give me a resume. How many of you already have a resume that you've done at some point before? Just any old resume at all. Just give me that one. Don't worry about making it better. Don't try to fool with it. Just turn in the one you have. It's easier for me to help show you how to improve it if I have something to start with. So just turn in a resume by next time. It doesn't have to be particularly good. If you've never done a resume before, just sort of do the best you can. You don't have to watch all those resume videos and figure out how to do it right. Just give me one at all, and then we'll talk about how to improve it and make it better. Once we've done that, then I will also make comments. So you'll after you've done a resume, then you'll watch what I have to say about how to make resumes better. And also, we'll talk about it in class a little bit. And also, I'll make comments on the one you give me. And then I'll have a second assignment to make it better and to give me an improved resume. Most of the comments that I will make about resumes are relatively objective issues. But the resume is both a thing you've got to do it right, but also a thing you've got to do it well. So there's aspects that are objective, and there's also aspects that are stylistic. Resumes are documents that have a certain degree of what's currently fashionable, what people are looking for, what the style and presentation that is now. And you can see my level of with it as far as current style goes. I'm not the best source for all of the little nuances of the way people want things to look. So I'll tend to concentrate on more objective things. I say this because once you've had the chance to see what I have to say and make your resume better, I will strongly encourage you to go to the Career Center and make your resume even better, because they're better at like what's currently considered that looks good, and what's currently considered like that looks kind of old-fashioned and you should change it. I don't know that stuff as well. Okay, so you got that part? Understand that? Give me a resume. Doesn't have to be good yet. Career essay, new assignment. I have set today up to be really lecture-y. I didn't intend this to happen. I have told you before that there are different instructors who do this class different ways. And one of the things that we are supposed to do is have a career portfolio. And the career portfolio has a whole bunch of parts. And some instructors assign it as one big project, like in a notebook, and it's got all the stuff in it, and they turn it in all at once. And I don't do that. I'm going to do it as little pieces. So the career essay is another one of the pieces of your career portfolio that we've been already doing some of the stuff related to. So we did the career coach assignment and some of the goals and stuff. I'm giving you two choices. Again, some instructors assign both of these, but I'm going to let you choose which one you want to do. Each of them is easy, but they're easy in two different ways. So whichever one is the one you want to do, that's fine. First choice, career goal essay. Roughly, what is your career goal and why does it make good sense for you personally? Why does it match you? Second choice, career research essay. Pick a career and do a sort of research essay about that career. Both of those are easy. I'll say a little bit more. With the career goal essay, if you already know what your career goal is, if you've got a pretty clear picture of that, then that should be pretty easy for you, right? And in fact, we've already done some assignments that ask you about that, right? So you've already written about your career goals when you answered the info action for chapter 15, when you talked about your goals in the chapter about goals, back first chapter. So you've said several of these things already. It may be easy for you to basically just cut and paste and pile it up and make a career essay out of that stuff. It doesn't have to be hard. What I do want to make sure that you do is focus on not just what career you want to do, but why is it good for you personally? Why is it something that you want or would excel in? How does it match you? And again, looking back at your career coach results might be something that's relevant to that. When I say essay here, I do not mean that it needs to be like a formal essay with an introduction and 3 paragraphs and a conclusion. I just mean thing that you write that's a little longer than some of the shorter answer things. So don't get scared by the term essay. It doesn't have to be very formal. I'm thinking like around a page, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So don't be concerned by the term. So the career goal essay, I think that's pretty straightforward if you already know what your career goal is. On the other hand, if you don't, it might be easier for you to do the career research essay. And this is like, how many of you have done a career research essay like in junior high or high school? This is basically the same thing that I have in mind. So pick a career, any one that you like, and research that career and tell me the sort of things that, you know, a research essay about a career would have in it. How much money do they make? What kind of education do they need? What sort of training do they need? What's the job outlook, likelihood? Are more people going to need this job, or is this career fading? You know, that sort of stuff, which is all fairly easy to find. One of the easiest things to do would be, again, to start with your career coach results. Click on the career you have in mind, and it'll take you to some more resources. In Canvas, you've got the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which lists all sorts of careers and links to all sorts of information. It should be very easy to find career research information without just like random Googling. So some of the resources I've already given you. And twist for that is, as best you can, try to figure out what the person actually does. Like what is their day-to-day job like in that field? The example I think I gave in the videos was that a doctor, you know, cures patients, diagnoses and cures patients, but also does a lot of paperwork, right? So they sit and do a whole lot of data entry stuff too. So as best you can, if you do the research one, try to figure out what the day-to-day life is like. That's not easy to find in the links, but try to see what you can do. In either case, for either essay, I would like you to clearly cite your sources for all the sources that you use. So if you pull up your career coach results, make sure you say where you got it from. If you use the Occupational Outlook Handbook, make sure you say where you went, what links you were looking at. How many of you have used APA citation method before? A couple of you. How many of you have used MLA citation method? How about Chicago or Turabian style? Couple. Anybody have used a different one, another like formal, official, follow all these rules and put the comma where it goes and the semicolon where it goes kind of system? So officially this class is an APA class because officially this is a social science and that's the style method of social sciences. And again, when some instructors assign this sort of project, they make you follow all those rules exactly. I don't personally care what style you use. So here's my recommendation. For whatever other classes that you have where you have to cite your sources in something and you have to use one of these official methods, use that method so that you can practice and you can stay in practice and you can make sure you're still using it right. But I don't really care which method you use. What I care about is that I can quickly and easily verify the source of the information. That's the point of all the different systems, is so that it's easy to tell where the information is so I can go see if you cited it correctly and if you have understood it correctly or not. Where did it really come from? Some citation methods use footnotes. Some citation methods use endnotes, where all the notes are after the thing is over. Some citation methods have in paragraph parenthetical notes where it's right there in there. I don't care. Make sure it's easy for me to see where you got it from if you got it from somewhere. Does that make sense? Okay. A couple quick comments about that. We'll talk more about this when we get to chapter 10, which is the information literacy chapter where they talk about plagiarism and citation methods. But one is make sure that if you cite a website, you cite the specific piece of the website that you're looking at. So like if you say, oh, that's not a symptom of COVID, I know because I looked it up on WebMD. Don't just say WebMD, say which specific page, right? Are you on the COVID symptoms page? And then what's the website address for that? Try to give me the detail, not just the general main page, where specifically, so that it's easy, so I can click and find it right away. You guys know that some web pages, when you look at them, it's like a couple paragraphs and then a next button, and that takes you to a different page. Whereas others, it's just like a long thing that goes down forever, right? If it's a long thing that goes down forever, try to indicate where it is on that page, paragraph 28 or whatever. So it's, again, easy for your reader to go find that. One other thing that, again, I see a lot of students do wrong, so it's a warning, and not relevant right here, but if you're citing article that's inside of a book, so an article in a textbook or an article in a magazine or something, you don't just cite the textbook or the magazine, you cite the article and the author of the article and where in the book it is. Again, I've seen that a lot where somebody will say, I'm quoting from Shakespeare and my reference source is the complete works of Shakespeare. You're like, no, tell me which play and which scene and where exactly it is, so it's easy to find. Okay, so that's just sort of quick comments about referencing. Not very important right now, but it came into my mind. Next class, I have an in-class activity that I would like to assign called Improving Group Work. I've finally figured out what we're going to do for our next group project, and so I want to do an in-class activity related to the group project next time. How many of you, when you work on group projects, you would prefer to pick your own group and work with the people you want to work with? Some of you. How many of you prefer when the instructor just assigns it and then you don't have to worry about it? Some of you didn't bring your hands with you. I'm going to let you pick your own groups, but then I'm going to also assign people that didn't wind up in groups and try to make the groups like reasonably sized. I'm going to give you a couple of different topic options, and I'm going to give you a couple of different ways to actually accomplish it. What I'm going to have the groups create as an end product is a virtual thing, so you don't necessarily have to get together to work on the group projects. You can do it with like shared Google Docs or whatever. So it'll be group, but shouldn't violate any sort of physical proximity concerns that people have. So next time we'll talk a little bit about how to make sure group projects go better. Okay, so that took like a long time for me to just talk about what assignments are coming up due next. Any questions about anything? All right, now let me talk about the content for today, briefly, I promise, briefly. How many of you have ever met somebody and then you like look them up on social media? You go and you see like, look up their Instagram or whatever, check them out. Nobody's willing to admit to that? Only a couple of, okay. Have you ever done that and you look somebody up and then what you find, you're like, oh, geez, yikes. Yeah? What kind of things make you feel like that? What kind of things are the like, yeesh? What would give you that reaction? Pictures of fish? You don't like pictures of fish? Nobody likes pictures of fish. Lots of people are opposed to pictures of fish. Huh. Sorry. What else? Okay, let me ask it in a more specific to the class kind of way. If I were an employer and I were looking you up online, as I've said that they are likely to do, what's some stuff that would make an employer go, no, geez, I'm not hiring this person? Drinking and smoking, probably not great, right? I mean, if you're underage especially, you know, you don't want to have a bunch of pictures of you doing illegal stuff. I think that it can be better or worse. Like, if all of your pictures are you just chugging, that's probably a lot worse than if you have some pictures of you and your friends and there's a beer visible in there or whatever. So it's a matter of not one picture necessarily, but an aggregate collection of information that might be the problem there. But yeah, you don't want pictures of you doing illegal stuff if your employer is going to see that. What were you going to say?
Just like being half naked on all over your Instagram.
Again, I think it's going to make a little difference what the context is, right? So if it's all a whole bunch of summer pictures and you're in your summer outfits or your summer, you know, you're on the beach in your swimsuits, that's different than if it seems just purely display. And again, employers are going to recognize the context to some extent, but yeah, you don't want to look too flirty if your professional researcher is going to be looking at you. What else? Anything else an employer would not want to see, or you wouldn't want them to see? How about, do you guys still remember the show Jackass? Yeah, some of you? Like doing Jackass type stuff, like just dumb stuff, that probably doesn't look so good to a professional resource, right? I don't mean being a jackass, but like doing crazy, dumb, risky stunts just for the hell of it kind of stuff probably doesn't look great. How about this? How many of you have ever gone and looked somebody up and tried to find their Insta or tried to find their Snapchats or whatever, and you find nothing? You can't find anything at all about them. A couple of you have had that happen. How do you feel about that? Is it weird?
I don't know, I guess because like we're in like an age where like literally everyone has social media, like it's a good way to kind of get like a feel about someone. So like when you don't have anything to go off of, it's just kind of like, I would say it's bad. Like if you don't have anything at all, it's kind of like, where is this person going?
Yeah, what's this person doing? Like where have they been or what are they hiding? Like if I can't find anything, that's really weird at this point, right? It's like, why can't I find it? Have they deliberately scrubbed the whole internet of themselves? Or are they like some kind of strange little religious cult that prevents people from getting online? Or what is it? Like, I don't know. It's kind of strange. And that's not necessarily good. How about this? How many of you have a Facebook account that you ever use? A few of you. Well, more of you than I'm used to at this point. In the earlier class, it was like 3 people in the class. So some of you guys have Facebook. Who uses Facebook primarily? I don't mean of you, but like what are the kinds of people that use Facebook?
Like my older family and like a lot of like for my dorm, like we had to meet each other through Facebook, like companies.
Companies, old people, grown-ups. So I think Facebook is still fairly popular in like for boomers and Gen Xers, right? I think people with kids who are grown, like that's where a lot of Facebook is. And you guys may have Facebook to keep up with them, but probably not as much with each other. Who is going to be doing the social media searching at a company? I don't think so. I mean, I'm talking like if the company is looking up applicants to see which applications are we going to consider and which ones are we not. I mean, maybe it could be, but probably the social media outreach person is busy creating social media content. The younger people that work there are making their policy, making the company look good, right? Running the websites and stuff. They're probably not the one going through the applications, trying to hire somebody. That's probably a manager who's Googling everybody. Now, you're right, it could be some of the time delegated this task, but often it's going to be people who are a little higher up in the company and therefore people who are a little bit older. I think that you should create a neutral, easy to find Facebook, look at me, I'm a good student. Because then they'll find it. You guys are using probably Instagram, probably some other things that I've never even heard of. There's probably some cool apps that you guys know about that I don't know anything about. And frankly, you can use those all you want and nobody's going to find it because we don't know about them yet. But eventually, when they start catching on and people start searching for them, or if I just Google your name, that's where you want something that's easy to find, that's clearly, obviously you. Because again, if I don't find anything, it's suspicious and strange, and then maybe I start looking more and try to find stuff, because what's the deal here? That's got me curious. You don't want that. You don't want people digging in. In the video I mentioned, I used to look every student up. I used to Google all of you, and I don't do that anymore. One reason is because I found a lot of mugshots, and students didn't necessarily want me to see their mugshots, and I can understand that. Another reason is that I started to feel kind of old and sketchy. Like, what are you doing looking it up all these teenage girls? I'm like, oh no, it's for school, really. Like, eh. So I don't do that anymore. But I want you to do it for yourself, and ideally have somebody else do it whose device is not set the way your device is set. How many of you have heard of the movie The Social Dilemma? Any of you seen it or heard of it? A couple of people have heard of it. Have you seen it? Okay, what did you think?
It's like really eye-opening. Like it made me want to just delete everything and just like put my phone away.
So the movie is on Netflix now. It's a recent Netflix documentary, and it talks, among other things, about how the social media companies operate and how they give you information based on not what the objective facts are, but what they think is going to make you pay more attention. So you and I may have a lot of similar interests, and let's say each of us wants to go look up something we don't know about. It talks about Pizzagate in there. How many of you are familiar with Pizzagate? Yeah, so okay. So if some of us go look up Pizzagate, it's going to tell us it's this crazy conspiracy thing. And other people, because their other search histories, are going to get Pizzagate. It's this thing that the media is claiming is a conspiracy, but really, we're going to see different results, even when we do just a basic Google search, because they've got a history of what they think is going to make us pay more attention. And it's not even about what we want to see. It's what's going to make us pay more attention. Another example they gave was people who watch a lot of cat videos. They're not necessarily going to recommend more cat videos to you. They might recommend like pictures of slaughterhouses because they think you'll get outraged. And if you get outraged, then you'll pay more attention because people who are outraged are involved. And that's what they care about. So they may not even be giving you stuff you want, but just stuff to get you. Okay, so that's what that movie's about. It's well done, I think. I didn't learn much from it, but it definitely puts forth an attitude that is worth paying attention to. I say all of that partly because what you find if you search for yourself isn't necessarily what I'm going to find if I search for you. So try to do that search, try to see what's available out there from the point of view of a 50-year-old manager at a business rather than a friend of yours. Yeah.
I had a professor that their advice was search for my own name on, say, a library computer or a friend's computer. Go somewhere that I've never logged into and see how. And there is a pretty dramatic difference.
Yeah, and because again, if you search for yourself on your phone, it already knows who you are, and it's going to pull up stuff about you that's easy for it to find because it already knows it. But yeah, what is a general neutral person going to find? So a computer that you're not even logged into, that has no history of you, is more what the company might find. And create neutral content. Create positive content that says who you are. So one of my students, I looked him up, and one of the reasons you might not find stuff about somebody is because their name's too common, right? So you get mixed up with other people. How many of you get mixed up with other people? You know there's somebody else out there with your name. Okay, so a common way to narrow that down would be to use your full name or to use your name and the location. So, you know, a student name, let's say Mike Brown, lots of Mike Browns. Type Michael Brown, Tallahassee, that might narrow it down. But this one particular student, all I could find about anything with his name on it, as narrow as I could get, was I found this mugshot of like a pirate. This guy, it was, you know, this old grizzly dude with like this scar that ran through his face, right through his eye. His eye was all whited out, and he had like snaggly teeth and hair everywhere. And it's like, just looked like a movie pirate. And I'm like, dude, when I search you, this is the only thing I find. And he's like, yeah, that's my dad. Like, I knew it wasn't him because I knew he was the kid in my class and I knew what he looked like, right? I knew this is obviously not him. But if I was just searching his name and I hadn't met him yet, I was just looking at resumes, looking at applications, I would think, geez, pirate, no, thank you. And then look at the rap sheet and like, wow, no. So what you want to do is create something that's clearly, easily identifiably you. So you say, you know that there's other people with your name. So make a new one where it's really obvious, like you're the one that's at TCC. You're the one that's going into whatever field you're going into. And have pictures of you like, I'm at TCC, look at me, in that Eagle Rise thing, standing there as the eye. And pictures of you with studying in the Learning Commons. Pictures of you doing the sort of stuff that they want to see. And then they'll find that real quick, they'll see it, they're like, oh, great, good, and they'll move on, right? If they can easily find stuff that's clearly you and that satisfies their curiosity, oh, good student trying to be, you know, whatever, then they'll move on. And if there is other stuff, they won't find it because they won't bother to look for it. It's when I can't find anything that I start to get curious and I look farther. Yeah. Can a company discriminate against you in hiring based on your political views? Officially not, but yeah, it can hurt. If I were a strong this side of things person and you are a strong that side of things person, I might just think, fuck, I don't want to work with that crazy person. And it wouldn't necessarily be discrimination. It would just be one of the things they're trying to figure out in the hiring process is, do they want to hang out with you? I'm like, just, no, I've met too many of them. I don't want to hang out with them. So yeah, that can be detrimental. Probably shouldn't be, but, and again, it's perfectly fine to share all your political views and to talk about all that stuff, but then also create something that the employer is going to see quickly and easily that isn't potentially negative. When we talk about resumes, I'll say something fairly similar. Like if you've done a lot of work, volunteer work with your church, you might want to put that volunteer work on your resume. Some people will want to put exactly what they've done. Other people might want to say that I did this volunteer work with a faith-based organization just in case, you know. So if you're doing it all with Third Baptist and I'm like, those Third Baptist people are jerks. It's Fifth Baptist all the way. You know, you don't want to run that chance. Or maybe, some people might not. If your political views are really important to you and you talk about them a lot and you want to talk about them a lot, you might rather be at a place where other people do agree with you and want to talk about them a lot, so it wouldn't hurt you, it would just help make sure you do find that right place. So all of this is none of this is like, this is the only way to do it. Okay, a couple other quick little things. I talked about giving 2 weeks notice if you quit a job. Why give 2 weeks notice? One of the answers that an awful lot of you gave when you were answering the question on the assignment was that it gives them time to replace you or time to hire somebody else. That's not usually the actual reason, although I gave you credit for that. Usually they're not going to be able to hire somebody to replace you that quickly, but it does give them time to reorganize the schedule and it doesn't leave them thinking, what a jerk, now we have to do all this. So it gives them a better attitude because it gives them more time to prepare for it. Some companies, they can hire right away. Chick-fil-A might be able to hire somebody in 2 weeks, but like TCC cannot do that. The library I work at, it takes months to hire somebody. But at least we've got like contingency plans of how we're gonna cover for you.
I just feel like if you like put your 2 weeks in and then didn't go for
That would be shitty.
Well, how would you like expect a good like job recommendation?
You should not expect a good recommendation on that basis. If you gave them 2 weeks notice and you say, and then you just don't show up for that 2 weeks, that would be bad. What 2 weeks notice means is, I'm going to stop working here 2 weeks from now. So if I were to give 2 weeks notice today, I would still be here the rest of this week. I would still be here all of next week. And I would still show up for all of that. I would already tell them when is my last day, and I would show up for all the days between now and then. That's the good way to do it. That's what giving your 2 weeks notice is about. And yeah, if you just ditch, then they're going to dislike you, and they're not going to, hire you anywhere else, and they're not going to possibly, et cetera. All that networking stuff would work against you. I talked a little bit in there about informational interviews and how useful it is to set up an informational interview, but I want to say something that I didn't even notice that I hadn't said, which is shoot for the middle instead of for the top if you're asking for an informational interview. One of the things that I talked about is if you ask somebody, you say, hey, I'm a college student and I want to know all there is to know about you, and you're a big expert and you're a leader in the field. You want them to feel like, oh, wow, hey, great. That means you need to pick somebody who's kind of in the intermediate level, not somebody who's clearly at the very top, right? I wouldn't recommend that you ask for an interview with the president of the hospital. Like, they're too busy. They don't probably have time to take out to talk to a student who's interested in eventually becoming a nurse, say. So shoot for somebody who's several levels above where you are, but maybe not like so much up at the top that they would not be flattered, they would just be annoyed. Like if you want to get into nursing, you might want an interview with the person who's in charge of the nursing department in the hospital, not the president of the hospital itself. Or if you want to talk to somebody who's, runs their own healthcare business, but a small one, not like a major national or regional kind of company. I think that's something you would figure out, but I wanted to say it because I do know that TCC students, sometimes if they have a problem with their professor, they don't go middle, they go high. Students will often just directly talk to the president of TCC, and he's not the right guy. He can't help. You want to talk to like the chairperson or the dean, 1 or 2 levels up from the person you're having the problem with. So similarly, if you want to do an informational interview, hit somebody who will be impressed with the fact that you want to talk to them. So middle. One last thing I wanted to remind you about, or say that I didn't make sure to mention before. I talked a little about internships, right? And the book talks about internships. The info action is about internships and how likely it is that they'll become a job. An internship it's like an extended opportunity to learn how the organization works. So you're typically doing a fairly low responsibility job, but you're also being taught, being exposed to how the rest of things work. There's some variation in how this works, but it's multiple weeks long, sometimes months long internship opportunity. So you get a lot of time to be familiar with it. Shadowing, which I talked about, and I think it mentions it in the book some, if you involve yourself in like the TCC Eagle Shadow program, or you shadow someone at work, you're basically going to follow them around for a day, maybe 2 days, but usually it's just like 1 day, to see what things are like there. How many of you ever went to like take your child to work day with your parents? So shadowing is kind of like that, I feel. That is, they may not show you a typical work day. They may try to show you some more exciting versions of what a work day is like. They may try to give you a sort of a general introduction to the business rather than literally just let you see what they do all day. If I were having a student shadow me, and then I got to the point where like, okay, now I'm going to sit at my computer and type shit for 3 hours. You can watch. Like, that's probably not what they're going to do, right? They're probably going to show you other things. And like, well, sometimes I get to do this. And so I warn you a little bit about the shadowing experience. On the one hand, it's a really great research opportunity because you can see a lot of things about how companies work. But on the other hand, don't think that that's really what a day-to-day job is like. They probably show you the fun parts and make it seem better than it is to them on a day-to-day basis. Okay, Does anybody have any questions about anything? A lot more talking today than I meant to do. Oh well. We have all these assignments that are due next time, the credit report, the career essay, the resume, and the online lectures. And then we'll do an in-class activity about group projects, and I'll talk about what our group project is gonna be later. Okay, thanks. I'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions anybody's got. Oh, I have stuff to hand back to a couple people, if anybody showed up. Carla S.,